Captain Tejo stared at the warning lights blinking across his control panel, each one a small red reminder of his terrible luck. The stellar wave groaned around him as if in pain. He slammed his three-fingered hand against the console in frustration. "Ship status?" he barked at the AI. "Multiple system failures detected, propulsion at 27% capacity, life support stable but declining. Estimated time until critical failure." 36 hours, the smooth voice replied, somehow making the dire situation sound routine. Tejo rubbed his scaled neck. His trader's reputation would be ruined if he couldn't deliver his cargo on time. Even worse, he was stuck orbiting Earth of all places, the newest and least respected member of the Galactic Confederation. "Nearest repair facility?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "Sol Orbital Station, Earth jurisdiction," Tejo hissed through his teeth. Humans, they'd barely figured out how to leave their own atmosphere a century ago, and now he'd have to trust them with his beloved ship. The Navari captain had been smugly avoiding human contact since they'd joined the Confederation. Most spacers did. Humans were considered the rowdy children of the galaxy, enthusiastic but clueless. With no other choice, Tejo docked at Sol Orbital. The station was a strange mix of shiny new technology and practical patchwork solutions, not elegant like Navari design, but somehow interesting. "I need a qualified repair technician," he told the dockmaster, not bothering to hide his doubt that such a person existed here. "You're in luck," the dockmaster said, grinning widely in that unsettling way humans did, showing too many teeth. "Jisoo just finished another job, best engineer on the station. Bit unconventional, but gets results." "Unconventional?" Tejo's crest rose slightly in alarm. "I need someone who understands Confederation standards." The dockmaster laughed. "Trust me, she understands them. Just doesn't always agree with them." Before Tejo could protest, the dockmaster had already sent for this Jisoo person. Tejo waited, nervously adjusting his captain's uniform, trying to look imposing. Humans needed to know their place when working on superior technology. When Jisoo arrived, she wasn't what he expected. She was small even for a human, with oil-stained coveralls and strange metal tools hanging from a belt. Her hair was pulled back in a practical style, and she carried a battered tablet. "You're the captain with the dying ship?" she asked, without preamble. Tejo bristled. "The stellar wave is not dying. It simply requires minor adjustments from a qualified. Your power coupling is fried, coolant system is leaking, and by the sound of your docking thrusters, you've got cascade failure starting in your navigational system." She interrupted, head tilted as if listening to the ship itself. Tejo blinked in surprise. The ship's AI hadn't even diagnosed the navigational problem yet. "How could you possibly know that?" he demanded. Jisoo shrugged. "I've got good ears, can I see it?" Reluctantly, Tejo led her aboard. His crew, all Navari, watched with undisguised skepticism as the human woman walked through the ship, occasionally tapping walls or putting her ear against panels. When they reached the engine room, Jisoo whistled. "Beautiful setup. Classic Confederation design. Very by the book." Something in her tone made Tejo defensive. The stellar wave was built at the finest shipyard in the Navari system. "And it shows," Jisoo said, running her fingers along a coolant pipe. "Problem is, by the book means predictable weaknesses. You've got the same overheating issue all Confederation ships get after about 5 years. "Impossible," Tejo scoffed. "Confederation designs are perfect." Jisoo gave him a look that humans might call "really?" and pulled out a small tool. Before he could stop her, she'd popped open a panel and pointed to a corroded connection. "Perfect. Huh? This design flaw has been in every Confederation ship for 3 centuries. Nobody fixes it because the manual doesn't acknowledge it exists." Tejo peered at the connection. He'd never seen that part of the ship before. Maintenance was always done by certified Confederation technicians who followed strict protocols. "Can fix your ship," Jisoo said confidently. "But I won't do it the Confederation way, it'll just break again." "Absolutely not," Tejo said firmly. "I need standard repairs that keep my certification valid." Jisoo shrugged. "Your call." Standard repairs will take 2 weeks and cost triple what I'd charge, and you'll be back here in 6 months with the same problems. Taeho's crest flattened against his head in distress. 2 weeks would ruin him. His buyers would find another supplier. But letting a human experiment on his ship, a warning alarm blared suddenly, making them both jump. Coolant leak accelerating, the AI announced, calmly. Critical systems affected. Time to failure. 12 hours. Taeho looked at the human woman. She didn't seem worried or eager, just ready. How quickly can you make repairs? He asked reluctantly. 3 days for the essential systems, another 2 for the improvements that'll keep you from breaking down. Again, improvements? Taeho repeated nervously. Jisoo smiled. Trust me, Captain. Your ship hasn't even begun to show what it can do. Against every instinct, Taeho found himself nodding. Very well. Minor repairs only, and nothing that violates Confederation regulations. Jisoo's smile widened. Of course. Captain. Nothing that anyone would notice during a standard inspection. Something about her tone should have worried him, but Taeho was too relieved to care. As Jisoo immediately began organizing her tools and scanning systems, he had the strange feeling his ship and his life were about to change forever. Taeho couldn't sleep. The soft hum of his ship had changed. It was smoother somehow, almost, purring. After 3 days of Jisoo's repairs, the stellar wave was running better than when he'd first acquired it. But something felt different, and that bothered him. He got up and pulled on his captain's jacket. The corridor lights automatically dimmed to night cycle settings as he made his way toward the engine room. He expected it to be empty at this hour, but a faint clanging sound told him otherwise. Jisoo was there, halfway inside an access panel, her legs sticking out comically. Tools were scattered around her in a pattern that made no sense to Taeho, but seemed to follow some system only she understood. "What are you doing?" he asked sharply. Jisoo jerked in surprise, banging her head with a dull thud. She backed out of the panel, rubbing her forehead. "Captain, I thought you'd be asleep." "Clearly," he said, looking pointedly at the dismantled components surrounding her. "These aren't standard repairs." Jisoo sighed. "No, they're better." She picked up a small device Taeho had never seen before. "This is a bypass regulator. Humans invented it for our early Mars colonies when equipment kept failing in the dust storms. My ship doesn't need Earth technology," Taeho said stiffly. "Your ship has 6 redundant safety systems that slow everything down," Jisoo countered. "Each one cuts your efficiency by 8%. That's why Confederation ships are reliable but slow." "They're slow because they're safe," Taeho argued. "They're slow because nobody questions 300-year-old designs," Jisoo replied, not backing down. "Look, I've fixed your immediate problems. The ship won't break down. But while I was in there, I saw so many ways to make it better." She gestured to a holographic display showing the ship's engine system. "These coolant pathways? They're routed in perfect symmetry because it looks nice on blueprints. But if you redirect them like this," her fingers moved across the display, redrawing lines, "you get 30% better heat distribution." Despite himself, Taeho was intrigued. The Confederation engineers must have considered that. Maybe, but they also prioritize uniformity. Every ship exactly the same, easy to inspect, easy to certify. She looked him directly in the eyes. "But you're not a military vessel or a passenger liner. You're a trader. Speed and efficiency mean profit." Taeho's crest rose slightly in interest. "How much efficiency?" "With the modifications I'm proposing? At least 40% more speed without any extra fuel consumption, plus the ability to push harder when you need to." "Push harder?" Taeho repeated. The concept felt almost wrong to him. Confederation ships operated within strict parameters. Pushing beyond them wasn't done. Humans call it overclocking, Jisoo explained. Using systems beyond their rated capacity for short periods. "We've been doing it since our first computers." "That sounds dangerous," Taeho said, but he couldn't hide the curiosity in his voice. "Only if you don't know what you're doing." Jisoo grinned. "I know what I'm doing." Taeho looked at the parts strewn across his engine room floor. His crew would be horrified. His Confederation certification agent would have a fit, but something about the confident way Jisoo spoke made him wonder what his ship could really do if freed from Confederation constraints. "Show me," he said finally. For the next 4 hours, Tae-ho watched as Jisoo explained each modification. Some were subtle tweaks to existing systems. Others involved completely rethinking how parts of the ship functioned. She used strange terms like hot rodding and jury rigging that had no Confederation equivalents. "This isn't in any manual," Tae-ho said as dawn cycle began. "That's the point," Jisoo replied. "Humans had to get creative because we started with junk technology compared to the rest of the galaxy. We learned to squeeze every bit of performance out of what we had." As they finished, the ship's alert system chimed. "Unknown vessels approaching," the AI announced. 3 ships, unregistered signatures. Tae-ho rushed to the bridge, Jisoo following close behind. The scanner showed 3 small, fast ships moving on an intercept course. "Pirates," Tae-ho hissed. "Scavengers looking for a damaged ship." "Can we outrun them?" Jisoo asked. "Not normally," Tae-ho admitted, "but perhaps with your modifications." He hesitated only a moment before activating the new systems Jisoo had installed. The ship's hum changed to a deeper, more powerful note. The bridge displays flickered briefly before stabilizing with new readings. "All systems online," the AI reported, sounding almost surprised. "Performance exceeding design parameters by 32%. Tae-ho grinned at Jisoo's satisfied expression. "Let's see what this ship can really do." He pushed the throttle forward, feeling a new responsiveness in the controls. The stellar wave leapt forward with acceleration he'd never experienced before. The pursuing pirates immediately fell behind. "They're still following," Jisoo noted, watching the scanner. "Then let's show them what overclocking means," Tae-ho said with newfound excitement. He pressed the emergency boost button that Jisoo had repurposed. The ship surged forward with such force that both of them were pushed back into their seats. Warning messages flashed across the screens, but the ship held together beautifully. Within minutes, the pirates were tiny dots on the scanner, hopelessly outpaced. Tae-ho looked at Jisoo with new respect. "I've never seen a ship move like that. Not even military vessels." "That's because they all follow the rules," Jisoo said with a smile. "Sometimes breaking the rules is exactly what you need to do." As Tae-ho eased back on the throttle, settling into a comfortable cruise speed still faster than his ship had ever gone before, he realized something had fundamentally changed, not just his ship but his perspective. "What other rules should we break?" he asked, surprising himself with the question. Jisoo's eyes lit up. "I thought you'd never ask." The Nova station loomed ahead, its massive crystalline arms reaching out into space like a glittering spider. Tae-ho had visited hundreds of times before, but never with such mixed feelings. They needed supplies, and the station was a major trading hub, unavoidable for a merchant captain. But the stellar wave was now very different from the ship listed in Confederation records. "Are you sure they won't notice?" Tae-ho asked Jisoo as they approached the docking bay. "Not during a routine inspection," she replied, though her eyes kept darting to the modified console. "Just don't let them run a full system diagnostic. Requesting docking clearance for merchant vessel Stellar Wave," Tae-ho said into the comm. "Clearance granted," came the immediate response. "Proceed to Bay 17. Too immediate, Tae-ho thought. Usually there was at least a brief pause for verification. As they glided into the assigned bay, Jisoo pointed out the observation windows. "That's odd. Why are there so many dock officials waiting?" Tae-ho's stomach sank. 4 uniformed Confederation inspectors stood at attention, accompanied by a squad of security officers. This was no routine welcome. "They know," he said grimly. Jisoo's face paled. How could they possibly? The pirates, Tae-ho realized. They must have reported a Navari trading vessel moving at impossible speeds. He turned to Jisoo. "You should hide. They'll be less harsh on me." She shook her head. "I'm not leaving you to face this alone." Before they could say more, the docking procedure completed with a gentle thud. The airlock hissed as pressure equalized, and the entry light turned green. "Captain Tae-ho," a stern voice called as soon as the door opened. A tall, gray-skinned Delvian official stepped forward. "I am Inspector Kren. Your vessel has been flagged for immediate inspection." "On what grounds?" Tae-ho asked, trying to sound confident. "Suspected illegal modifications and violation of Confederation safety protocols," Kren replied, his four eyes narrowing as they fell on Jisoo. "And unauthorized human interference with certified technology." Jisoo stepped forward. "I'm a licensed engineer, licensed by Earth authorities," Kren interrupted dismissively. "Not by the Confederation Board of Technological Standards." He turned to his team. "Begin the inspection. Full system diagnostic." Tae-ho and Jisoo could only watch as the inspection team swarmed through the ship, scanning everything, opening panels, taking readings. The security officers kept them confined to the cargo hold away from any controls. "I'm sorry," Jisoo whispered. "This is my fault." Tae-ho shook his head. "No, I agreed to the modifications." He looked at her with unexpected warmth. "And they're magnificent. Whatever happens, I don't regret it." 3 hours later, Inspector Kren returned, his face a mask of disgust. He held up a data pad. 47 violations of Confederation standards," he announced. "Unauthorized power routing, disabled safety redundancies, unapproved materials." His eyes narrowed at Jisoo. "And primitive human engineering contaminating advanced systems." "Those primitive modifications let us escape from pirates," Tae-ho countered. "By exceeding safety limits that exist for good reason," Kren snapped. "This ship is now a danger to every station and vessel in Confederation space." He gestured to the security team. "Impound this vessel. The human engineer is to be detained for questioning." 2 officers moved toward Jisoo. Without thinking, Tae-ho stepped between them. "This is unacceptable," he said, his voice rising. "Jisoo acted under my authority as captain." "Step aside, Captain," Kren ordered. "Humans are not permitted to modify Confederation-level technology. It's for their own protection as much as ours." "Protection?" Jisoo laughed bitterly. "You mean control. You're afraid we might actually improve something." A small crowd had gathered near the docking bay, drawn by the commotion. Tae-ho noticed several human traders among them, watching intently. "These modifications aren't dangerous," Tae-ho insisted. "They're innovative. Different doesn't mean unsafe." Kren's face hardened. "The Confederation has maintained technological standards for 7 centuries. Humans have been in space for barely 1. Your species simply lacks the experience to—" "To what?" challenged Jisoo. "To think differently. To question designs that haven't changed in centuries." The crowd was growing larger. Tae-ho saw station officials looking uncomfortable with the public confrontation. "This should be handled through proper channels," a new voice said. A distinguished-looking Lantian stepped forward from the crowd. "I am Counselor Pell, Nova Station, Administrator." Kren bowed slightly. "Counselor, I'm simply enforcing regulations. This vessel has created quite a stir," Pell finished. "Reports of a trading vessel outrunning pirate ships have been circulating throughout the station. Many captains are curious." Tae-ho seized the opening. "Then let them see for themselves. If our modifications are truly dangerous, prove it." "What are you suggesting?" Pell asked, interest lighting his luminous eyes. "A demonstration," Tae-ho said, thinking quickly. "A race. The stellar wave against any standard Confederation vessel of similar class." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Kren looked outraged. "Absolutely not. This is a matter of regulation, not sport." "Unless you're afraid," Jisoo said softly, but loud enough for those nearby to hear. Pell's mouth twitched in what might have been amusement. "An interesting proposal. It would settle the question of safety in a practical way." "It would make a mockery of Confederation authority," Kren protested. "It would show the Confederation's confidence in its standards," Pell countered smoothly. "If your vessel easily bests this modified trader, it proves our regulations are correct." More people were gathering now. Tae-ho could see the moment when Kren realized he was trapped by public opinion. A refusal would look like fear. Very well, Kren said stiffly. 3 days from now, the stellar wave against the patrol cruiser Vigilant. Same class, same base specifications. Agreed, Tae-ho said quickly before Kren could add conditions. But, Kren added, his eyes cold, when your ship fails, or worse, breaks apart due to these reckless modifications, it will prove once and for all why humans should not be permitted to tamper with technology beyond their understanding. As Kren and his team departed, leaving a single guard to monitor the ship, Jisoo turned to Tae-ho with worry in her eyes. The Vigilant is a patrol cruiser. It's built for speed, but it's built to Confederation standards, Tae-ho replied, with all those wonderful safety redundancies that slow everything down. Jisoo's face broke into a slow smile. 3 days. We can make this ship even faster in 3 days. Pell approached them, speaking quietly. You've created quite a spectacle. Captain, half the station is already placing bets. And which way are they betting? Tae-ho asked. Pell's expression remained neutral. Most expect the Vigilant to win, of course. He paused. But there's a surprising amount of support for the underdog, especially among the younger engineers who have worked with humans. As Pell walked away, Tae-ho realized that what had begun as a simple repair job had somehow become something much larger, a challenge to centuries of rigid thinking. And looking at the determination on Jisoo's face, he felt, for the first time, that they might actually win. Hand me the plasma cutter, Jisoo said, her voice muffled as she lay underneath the primary thruster assembly. Tae-ho passed the tool without comment. In just 3 days they had fallen into a smooth working rhythm, anticipating each other's needs almost instinctively. The guard assigned to watch them, a young Arcturian named Vex, observed with poorly disguised curiosity. Is that coolant supposed to be that color? Vex asked, pointing to the bright blue liquid flowing through a transparent tube. No, Jisoo replied without looking up. Standard Confederation coolant is clear. This is my own mix. Better heat transfer, less viscosity at high temperatures. That's not regulation, Vex said, though he sounded more impressed than disapproving. Tae-ho smiled to himself. Over the past 2 days, their guard had asked increasingly technical questions, clearly fascinated by Jisoo's modifications. Most good things aren't regulation, Jisoo said, sliding out from beneath the assembly. Her face was streaked with grease, her hair wild. The regulations tell you what's safe, not what's possible. 12 hours left, Tae-ho reminded her, checking the time. The race was scheduled for mid-station day tomorrow. How much more can we realistically accomplish? Jisoo wiped her hands on a rag. The main systems are done. I've bypassed 3 redundant safety loops, increased coolant flow by 40%, and recalibrated the fuel injectors. We should see at least 60% better acceleration. And if something goes wrong? Vex asked quietly, glancing around as if afraid his supervisors might hear him talking to them. Multiple fail-safes, Jisoo explained. That's the difference between human engineering and what you're taught. We don't prevent systems from failing, they always will eventually. We design for graceful failure. I don't understand, Vex admitted. In Confederation design, if one part fails, everything shuts down to prevent damage, Tae-ho explained, having learned this from Jisoo. In Jisoo's design, if something fails, the system adapts, roots around the problem. Like your own body, Jisoo added. If you cut your hand, you don't shut down completely, you adapt. Vex looked thoughtful. That's not how we're trained to think about machines. That's the problem, Jisoo said, standing up and stretching her tired muscles. You treat machines like perfect mathematical equations. We treat them like living things. A commotion at the dock entrance interrupted them. Inspector Kren strode in, flanked by 2 technicians. Surprise inspection, he announced with obvious satisfaction, to ensure no additional modifications before tomorrow's demonstration. Jisoo and Tae-ho exchanged alarmed looks. They had been working non-stop, pushing every system to its limits. Nothing they'd done was dangerous, but none of it would pass strict Confederation standards either. The terms of our agreement didn't include additional inspections, Teho protested. The terms didn't exclude them either, Kren replied smoothly. My technicians will simply verify that your ship remains in the same condition as our initial inspection. If you've made no further modifications, you have nothing to worry about. It was a trap, and they all knew it. If Kren documented more violations, he could disqualify them before the race even began. The modifications are ongoing preparations for the race, Jisoo argued. You can't expect us to compete with a ship you've hamstrung with inspections. I expect you to follow Confederation law, Kren said coldly. Begin the inspection, he ordered his technicians. As the technicians moved toward the engine room, Vex suddenly stepped forward. Sir, regulations state that any inspection must be conducted with proper documentation. I've seen no authorization forms for this action. Kren's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. Officer Vex, you are here to guard, not interpret regulations. Article 17, Section 4 of the Technological Standards Code, Vex continued, standing straighter. All inspections must be documented and approved by station administration when concerning contested modifications. Teho stared at the young guard in amazement. Jisoo didn't bother hiding her grin. Kren's face darkened. I am a senior inspector. I believe Officer Vex is correct, came another voice. Counselor Pell entered the docking bay, his timing suspiciously perfect. Tomorrow's demonstration has generated considerable interest. Everything must be absolutely by the book. Kren's mouth opened and closed several times. Counselor, these modifications could be dangerous. Public safety will be ensured by the safety zone already established for the race. Pell finished smoothly. Your concern is noted, Inspector, but this inspection is not authorized. He turned to Teho and, Jisoo, please continue your preparations. The race course has been finalized and will be transmitted to your navigation system. After Pell escorted a fuming Kren from the bay, Teho turned to Vex. Why did you do that? The young Arcturian looked uncomfortable. Because what you're doing is interesting, and because, he hesitated, because I'm tired of being told the rules never change. Thank you, Jisoo said simply. Vex nodded, then resumed his post by the door, though his posture seemed less rigid than before. With renewed energy, they worked through the night. Jisoo pushed every system beyond what Teho thought possible, while he focused on optimizing the navigation controls for the race course. By morning, they were exhausted but satisfied. It's time, Teho said, looking at the chrono. The Vigilant will be launching soon. Jisoo looked around the engine room. Tools were still scattered everywhere, panels hung open, showing the modified systems beneath. The ship looked like a disaster, but Teho had never felt more confident. Win or lose, he said to Jisoo. What you've done here is remarkable. Jisoo smiled, fatigue evident in her eyes. We're not going to lose. As they made their way to the bridge, station broadcasts showed the gathering crowd. Hundreds had gathered in the observation lounges. The race had become the biggest event on Nova Station in years. The Vigilant has launched, reported the station announcer. Captain Lorne sends his respects to the competitor and reminds everyone that safety is the Confederation's primary concern. Translate. He's already making excuses for when we win, Jisoo muttered. Teho took his place at the helm, running through the pre-flight checklist, much shorter now thanks to Jisoo's streamlined systems. The ship hummed with power, feeling alive under his hands. Stellar wave. You are cleared for launch, came the controller's voice. Proceed to the starting position. As they pulled away from the station, Teho saw the Vigilant already waiting. Sleek, perfectly maintained, a model of Confederation engineering. Next to it, the stellar wave looked like a patchwork creation. They're broadcasting the race throughout the station, Jisoo said, checking the comms, and to ships in the sector. Nervous? Teho asked. Jisoo patted the console affectionately. Not at all. This ship has heart now. Competitors, take your positions, the race official announced. The course is transmitted. First vessel to complete the marked route wins. The Vigilant moved precisely into position, its engines glowing with regulated power. Ready? Taeho asked as they lined up alongside. Born ready, Jisoo replied, hands hovering over the modified engine controls. Let's show the galaxy what humans and Navari can do together. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1. The victory celebration lasted well into the night cycle. Nova Station's largest lounge was packed with traders, engineers, and curious onlookers, all eager to hear firsthand how a modified merchant vessel had outperformed the Confederation's prized patrol cruiser. Taeho sat at a corner table, still, processing the day's events. The race had been close at first, the Vigilant taking an early lead with its perfectly calibrated systems. But as they'd pushed into the asteroid belt portion of the course, Jisoo's modifications had proven their worth. While the Vigilant slowed to navigate safely, the stellar wave had adapted instantly to the changing conditions, its enhanced sensors and responsive controls allowing Taeho to weave through gaps the patrol ship wouldn't dare attempt. By the wire. Final stretch, they'd been 2 full minutes ahead, an eternity in racing terms. There he is, someone shouted, and Taeho looked up to see Jisoo making her way through the crowd. People reached out to pat her shoulder or shake her hand, a human gesture, Taeho noted, that many aliens were now adopting with her. Sorry I'm late, Jisoo said, dropping into the seat across from him. I couldn't get away from the engineering crew from the Talari passenger liner. They had so many questions. You're a celebrity now, Taeho said, sliding a drink toward her. The human who proved Confederation engineering could be improved. Jisoo took a sip and made a face at the strong taste. We proved it together, a Navari captain willing to try something new, and a human engineer too stubborn to follow the rules. Around them, the celebration continued. Taeho had never seen anything like it. Species that rarely mingled were deep in technical discussions, sharing ideas, debating possibilities. It's more than just a race victory, said a voice behind them. They turned to see Counselor Pell, looking pleased despite his efforts to maintain a neutral expression. It's become a symbol. A symbol of what? Taeho asked. Change, Pell said, simply. The Confederation has maintained technological stability for centuries. Some would say stagnation. He gestured around the room. But look at them now, excited, inspired. I've received 17 formal requests for modification permits. Since your victory, Kren must be thrilled, Jisoo said dryly. Pell's mouth twitched. Inspector Kren has taken an unexpected leave of absence. The Technological Standards Board is reassessing certain regulations. Before they could respond, a commotion at the lounge. Entrance drew their attention. A group of ship captains entered, representatives from half a dozen species, all watching them intently. Captain Taeho, said the leader, a weathered Danebian trader. We would like to discuss business. Over the next hour, Taeho and Jisoo were overwhelmed with offers. Captains wanted their ships upgraded. Engineers wanted to learn Jisoo's techniques. 2 shipping companies offered exclusive contracts if they would modify their entire fleets. This is incredible, Jisoo whispered during a brief lull. I never expected this. Neither did I, Taeho admitted. But perhaps we should have. The galaxy has been following the same technological path for too long. As the night progressed, the conversations became more serious. Pell returned with several Confederation officials, not inspectors like Kren, but researchers and policy advisors. The board is interested in studying your modifications, one explained. Not to restrict them, but to understand them. Perhaps there is room for controlled innovation. Controlled by whom? Jisoo asked pointedly. The officials exchanged glances. That remains to be determined, but your input would be valued. Later, as the celebration began to wind down, Taeho and Jisoo found themselves alone on an observation deck watching ships come and go from the station. What happens now? Jisoo asked quietly. Back to regular trading runs? Taeho looked at her surprised. After today? Impossible. We can't go back to the way things were. We? Jisoo raised an eyebrow. My contract was just for repairs. And now we have offers to modify ships across 3 sectors. Taeho pointed out. I can't do that without you. You want to continue working together? I'm proposing a partnership, Taeho said. The idea had been forming in his mind all evening, not just repairing ships or making them faster, but fundamentally changing how the galaxy approaches technology, Navari business connections, and human innovation. Jisoo stared out at the stars, considering. It won't be easy. The Confederation won't change overnight. Kren isn't the only one who believes the old ways are best. Nothing worthwhile is easy, Taeho said. But today proved it's possible. The next morning they stood in Counselor Pell's office, signing the registration for a new company, Boundless Engineering. The paperwork was the first of its kind, a formal partnership between a Navari captain and a human engineer, with equal standing. This is highly irregular, the registry official complained, clearly uncomfortable with the non-standard arrangement. Irregularity seems to be their specialty, Pell observed with amusement. As they left the office, they found Vex waiting in the corridor, no longer in his security uniform. Officer Vex, Taeho said, surprised. Or should I say former officer? Just Vex now, the young Arcturian replied. I submitted my resignation this morning. Because of us? Jisoo asked, concerned. Vex shook his head. Because of me. Watching. You two work made me realize I was following a path others had chosen. He hesitated. I've always been interested in engineering, but never had the courage to break from tradition. And now? Taeho asked. Now I'm hoping there might be a position with Boundless Engineering. I have a lot to learn, but I'm willing to work hard. Jisoo grinned at Taeho. Our first employee? 3 months later, the stellar wave approached Earth's orbital stations, but this time it wasn't alone. A small fleet of merchant vessels followed in formation, all modified, all pushing beyond what their designers had ever imagined possible. On the bridge, Taeho watched as Jisoo guided their newest apprentice, a young Lantian who had defied her family's expectations to join their growing company. The bypass coupling is key, Jisoo was explaining. It gives you flexibility when the main systems need to adapt. But it's not in the standard design, the apprentice said, sounding both troubled and excited by the concept. That's the point, Taeho said from his captain's chair. Standard designs are just the beginning. What matters is what you build from there. As they docked at the station, Taeho received a message from Counselor Pell. The Technological Standards Board had approved their proposal for a new division focused on adaptive engineering techniques. The galaxy was changing one ship at a time. Ready for the next adventure? Jisoo asked, joining him at the viewport as the Earth turned below them, beautiful and blue. With you? Always, Taeho replied, realizing how true those words had become. There are no limits to what we can accomplish together.